The ships appeared at the edge of the solar system without warning. Hundreds of them, each one larger than a small moon, their hulls gleaming in the distant light of the sun. They had traveled across half the galaxy to reach this place, to find the species that had refused their help. Commander Zixthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue planet that hung in the darkness ahead. Earth, the home of humanity. He had heard so much about this world, about the stubborn species that lived there. They had turned down every offer of friendship. They had refused every chance to join the Galactic Council. They had insisted on fighting alone. Now he was here to see if they had survived. His tactical officer turned from her station, her face troubled. "Commander, I am not detecting any signals from the planet." Zixthor felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean?" "No communication satellites. No defense platforms. No ships in orbit, nothing. That cannot be right. Scan again." The officer worked at her controls, her fingers moving quickly. After a moment, she looked up again. "The scan is correct, sir. There is nothing artificial in orbit around Earth. The planet appears to be quiet." Zixthor walked to the main viewing screen. Earth looked beautiful from this distance. White clouds swirled over blue oceans. Green and brown continents spread across the surface. It looked peaceful. It looked alive, but something was very wrong. "Send scout ships to the surface," he ordered. "I want teams on every continent. Find out what happened here." The scout ships launched an hour later. Zixthor watched on the monitors as they descended through Earth's atmosphere. The pilots reported clear skies. No defense systems targeting them. No warning broadcast, just silence. The first ship landed in a place called New York City. The pilot's voice came through the speakers, sounding confused. "Commander, you need to see this." The video feed showed a city street. Tall buildings rose on both sides. Vehicles sat motionless on the road. But there were no people. The pilot moved through the streets, his camera showing empty sidewalks and dark windows. "The power is still on in some buildings," the pilot reported. "But I see no signs of life, no humans, no bodies, nothing." More reports came in from other cities, London, Tokyo, Cairo, Sydney. Every report was the same. Empty streets, silent buildings, no humans anywhere. Zixthor felt a cold fear growing inside him. "Land teams on the ground. I want detailed searches of the buildings. Look for any clue about what happened." The ground teams went to work. They entered homes and found tables set for meals that were never eaten. They found beds that looked like people had just gotten out of them. They found clothes hanging in closets and toys scattered on floors. But no people. In an apartment in New York, they found a woman's home. Her name was Katie Morris, according to the mail on her counter. Her coffee mug sat on her desk, still half full. Mold floated on top of the cold liquid. Her computer was in sleep mode. Her bed was made neatly. Everything looked normal, except that Katie Morris was gone. At a military base in Colorado, they found an office belonging to someone named Colonel Jack Bennett. Papers sat on his desk, waiting to be signed. His jacket hung on the back of his chair. His coffee cup sat beside his keyboard. The entire base was empty, but nothing was damaged. It was as if everyone had simply vanished in the middle of their day. Zixthor listened to report after report, his confusion growing. What about the rural areas? The small towns? "The same, Commander," came the reply. "We have searched farms, villages, and isolated homes. All empty. We found animals in some places, but no humans. Any signs of struggle? Any signs of what took them? None, sir. Everything is intact. No damage, no blood, no bodies. They are just gone." Zixthor ordered his teams to expand their search. They went to every continent, every island, every corner of the planet. They searched underground bunkers and mountain retreats. They checked research stations in Antarctica and monitoring posts in remote deserts. Everywhere they looked, they found the same thing. Empty buildings, silent machines, no humans. In a school in California, they found classrooms with books still open on desks. Math problems were written on whiteboards. Backpacks hung on hooks, but the children were gone. The teachers were gone. Everyone was gone. In a hospital in Boston, they found patient rooms with beds made and equipment ready. Medicine sat in cabinets. Operating rooms were prepared for surgeries that never happened. The doctors and nurses had vanished along with their patients. "Commander," one of the search teams called. "We found something." Zixthor leaned forward. "Report. A data center in Virginia. The servers are still running. They contain massive amounts of information. News broadcasts, government files, personal communications. Everything just stops. 4 months ago. Can you access the information? Yes, sir. The systems are still active. No one deleted anything. It looks like they just left everything behind. Zixthor felt his hearts beating faster. Download everything. I want every file, every message, every piece of data you can find. Maybe it will tell us what happened here. As his teams worked, Zixthor walked to the observation deck of his ship. He looked down at Earth, trying to understand what he was seeing. An entire species had disappeared. Billions of people gone without a trace. No war had done this. No plague could work this perfectly. No natural disaster could remove every human while leaving everything else intact. This was something else. Something planned. Something deliberate. His science officer, Dr. Vensala, joined him at the window. She was a Korthan, her pale blue skin almost glowing in the soft light of the observation deck. She had studied human culture for years, hoping one day to meet them. I do not understand, she said quietly. Where did they go? I do not know, Zixthor replied. But we will find out. The Galactic Council debated for 3 cycles whether to help them, Vensala continued. Some wanted to send aid immediately. Others said the humans were too proud and should face the consequences of their refusal. In the end, we decided to respect their wishes and let them fight alone. And now they are gone. Yes, now they are gone. Vensala paused. Do you think the Krethon did this? Zixthor had been wondering the same thing. The Krethon swarm had been advancing through human space for months. They were a terrible enemy, consuming everything in their path. The humans had fought bravely, but the Krethon were relentless. If the Krethon had taken them, there would be signs, Zixthor said. Damaged buildings, consumed biomass. The Krethon leave nothing behind, but here everything is intact. The humans left on their own, but where would they go? And how? That was the question that haunted Zixthor. He had been part of the Galactic Council for 40 years. He had seen many species rise and fall, but he had never seen anything like this. An entire civilization vanished without explanation. We will search until we find answers, he said. Assemble your best team. I want every piece of data analyzed. I want every building searched. I want to know everything about humanity's final days. Dr. Vensala nodded and left to organize her researchers. Zixthor remained at the window looking down at the silent planet below. Somewhere down there, hidden in the empty cities and abandoned homes, was the answer to what had happened to humanity. He just hoped he would understand it when he found it. The search continued for days. Teams combed through government buildings and military installations. They accessed computer systems and read through millions of files. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. The humans had known they were losing the war. The Krethon were too strong, too adaptable. Every weapon the humans created was countered. Every strategy they devised was defeated. The Krethon learned from every battle, became stronger with every encounter, but that still did not explain where the humans had gone, or how an entire species could disappear so completely. Zixthor stood in the command center of his ship, studying the reports that came in from his teams. Empty cities, silent streets, a whole world holding its breath, waiting for people who would never return. Commander, his communications officer called out, "We are receiving a signal from the surface." Zixthor spun around. A human? No, sir. It is automated. A beacon hidden beneath a facility in Switzerland. It activated when our ships entered the atmosphere. What does it say? The officer played the message. A calm voice spoke in the common galactic language. If you are hearing this, you have discovered that humanity has left Earth. For answers, search beneath Geneva. The truth awaits. Zixthor felt hope surge through him. Finally a clue. Send a team to Geneva immediately. I am coming with them. The sun was setting over Geneva when Zixthor emerged from the underground facility. He had spent hours reading through human records, trying to understand the full scope of what had happened. His team remained below, cataloging data and studying the gateway technology. But he needed air and space to think. Dr. Vensala found him standing at the edge of a plaza, looking at the empty city. Buildings rose around them, their windows dark. Streets that once bustled with life were silent. A light wind blew papers across the pavement. I found something you need to see, she said. They returned to the facility and went to a different section, one that contained military records. Vensala pulled up a file on a large display screen. This is from their defense department. Analysis of the Crethon swarm. The screen showed images of Crethon vessels. They looked organic, like massive insects or crustaceans built for war. Their hulls were dark and ridged, covered in bioarmor that could regenerate damage. Each ship carried thousands of Crethon warriors, creatures designed for one purpose only: to consume and spread. The humans studied them extensively, Vensala explained. They captured Crethon specimens and analyzed their biology. What they discovered was disturbing. She brought up a report written by a scientist named Professor Alan Wright. His analysis covered dozens of pages, filled with genetic data and biological assessments. The Crethon were not born, Vensala summarized. They were made, engineered by an ancient civilization as the ultimate military weapon. Their DNA contains artificial modifications that allow rapid adaptation. When they encounter a new threat, their genetic structure rewrites itself within hours to counter it. Zixthor stared at the data. That should be impossible. It is impossible by natural evolution, but with advanced genetic engineering and nanotechnology built into their cells, the Crethon can do what takes other species millions of years. They adapt in real time. She pulled up another file, this one containing combat reports. Every battle the humans fought showed this pattern. The first time they used energy weapons, the Crethon suffered heavy casualties. The second time, the Crethon had developed energy-resistant armor. When the humans switched to kinetic weapons, the Crethon adapted again. When the humans tried biological weapons, the Crethon not only resisted, but incorporated the toxins into their own biology as weapons. Zixthor felt a chill run through him. They cannot be defeated. Not by conventional warfare, Vensala agreed. The humans ran thousands of simulations. Every scenario ended the same way. Even if they could hold the Crethon at Earth, it would only delay the inevitable. The Crethon would adapt, return stronger, and eventually overwhelm them. She brought up a final document stamped with high-level security clearances. It was a strategic assessment written by General Lisa Crawford, the head of Earth's military forces. The general's report was blunt. The war was unwinnable. The Crethon could not be stopped by weapons or tactics. They were too adaptable, too numerous, and too relentless. Humanity had three choices: surrender and be consumed, fight to extinction, or find another option. Dr. Price's dimensional gateway was that other option. But there was another reason for the exodus, Vensala said. She seemed reluctant to continue. Tell me, Zixthor said. The humans realized that if the Crethon consumed them, the swarm would gain all of humanity's knowledge and adaptations: human intelligence, human creativity, human technology. The Crethon would become smarter, more dangerous, and then they would continue spreading through the galaxy. Zixthor understood immediately. They would come for the rest of us. Yes, the humans calculated that the Crethon would reach the nearest council world within 2 years. Your people would be next, then mine, then every other species in the galaxy, one by one, until nothing remained. So they left, Zixthor said quietly. Not just to save themselves. They left to save everyone, Vensala confirmed. By removing themselves from the equation, they prevented the Crethon from gaining human advantages. The swarm would find an empty Earth and nothing to consume. The humans hoped that without prey, the Crethon might enter dormancy or move elsewhere. Zixthor felt a surge of respect and shame. Respect for humanity's sacrifice. Shame that the Galactic Council had debated and delayed while humans faced this terrible choice alone. Show me the final days, he said. I want to see how they did it. Vensala pulled up video archives from Earth's final weeks. The images showed massive evacuations from cities around the world. Ships landed in designated zones to collect people. Families boarded with whatever they could carry. Most brought almost nothing, knowing that where they were going, possessions would not matter. One video showed a woman named Claire Thompson preparing to leave her home in Boston. She filmed herself talking to the camera while her daughter played in the next room. I am making this recording for whoever finds it, Claire said. I want you to know that we did not leave because we were afraid. We left because staying would doom not just us but you as well. She paused, her eyes filling with tears. I am a nurse. I have spent my life helping people, healing them, trying to make the world better, and now I am leaving that world behind. My daughter will never see Earth again. She will grow up in a place we know nothing about. A dimension we can barely understand. Claire wiped her eyes. But she will grow up. She will live. And maybe that is enough. Another video showed the military evacuation from the front lines. Soldiers boarded transport ships while explosions lit the sky behind them. A young officer named Jake Sullivan recorded the retreat. "We held them as long as we could," he said into his camera. 2 months of constant fighting, buying time for the civilians to get home. We lost a lot of good people in that time, but we got the job done. He looked back at the battlefield where Krethon vessels were landing. "I hope we made the right choice. I hope wherever we are going is better than this." Zixthor watched dozens of these videos, each one showing different people facing the same reality. They were leaving everything behind. Their history, their planet, their entire universe, but they were doing it together. The final preparations took place in Geneva. The Gateway facility became the center of the evacuation. Humans gathered in designated zones across Earth, and the Gateway technology created localized rifts to transport them to the main platform. Dr. Price's final log entry described the process. The Gateway would open for exactly 6 hours. During that time, every human on Earth would be transported through the dimensional rift. Then the Gateway would collapse and the facility would self-destruct to prevent anyone from following or recreating the technology. "We do not know what is on the other side," Dr. Price wrote. "Our probes detected a world with an atmosphere and suitable conditions for life. But beyond that, everything is uncertain. We are stepping into the unknown, trusting that anything is better than certain extinction." She wrote about her fears and hopes. Fear that the Gateway might fail, stranding humanity between dimensions. Fear that the other side might be hostile. Fear that they were making a mistake, but also hope. Hope that they would find a new home. Hope that humanity could start again. Hope that their sacrifice would give other species a chance to survive. The evacuation log showed the final hours. Zone by zone, city by city, humans stepped through local rifts and appeared on the Gateway platform in Geneva. From there, they passed through the main dimensional gateway into the unknown. A video camera recorded the scene at the Geneva facility. Thousands of people appeared on the platform every minute, looking around in confusion before being guided forward through the shimmering gateway. Children held their parents' hands. Elderly people were helped by younger ones. Everyone moved together, an entire species migrating to a new existence. The military forces came last. They had remained at their posts until the final moment, ensuring that everyone else got through safely. Captain Jake Sullivan stood at the gateway entrance with his squad, waiting as the last civilians passed through. "Command, this is Sullivan," he said into his radio. "All civilians are through. Military personnel preparing to evacuate now." The soldiers formed an orderly line and walked through the gateway. Sullivan went last, turning to look at the empty facility one final time. "Goodbye, Earth," he said softly. Then he stepped through and vanished. The gateway collapsed behind him. The facility's self-destruct sequence activated. Explosions ripped through the underground chambers, destroying the equipment and burying it beneath tons of concrete and steel. Above ground, across the entire planet, automated systems began shutting down. Power plants went into standby mode. Communication networks went silent. Earth became a ghost world, waiting in the darkness for visitors who would never come. Zixthor watched the final footage in silence. Around him, his team stood equally quiet, humbled by what they had witnessed. "They saved themselves," Dr. Vensala said, "but they also saved us. If the Krethon had consumed humanity, we would all be next." Zixthor nodded slowly. "The council debated whether humanity deserved our help. We questioned their refusal to join us. We wondered if they were too proud or too foolish." He paused. "We were wrong. They understood the threat better than we did, and they made the hardest choice imaginable to protect not just themselves but everyone else." He turned to his team. "Download everything in this facility." The journey back to Council Space took 3 days. Zixthor spent most of that time reviewing the data his teams had collected from Earth. The information was extensive and disturbing. The humans had learned more about the Krethon in 6 months than the Council had learned in decades of monitoring the swarm from a distance. Dr. Vensala worked around the clock with her research team, analyzing the human findings. On the 3rd day, she requested a meeting with Zixthor in his private office. "The humans were right about everything," she said without preamble. "The Krethon cannot be stopped by conventional warfare. Every weapon we have will be adapted to and countered within weeks. The humans tried everything and nothing worked. Zixthor had expected this, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. Then what do we do? The humans left us more than just information about the Krython, Vensala continued. They left us their research into unconventional solutions. Dimensional weapons, reality-altering technology, physics-based attacks that the Krython cannot adapt to, because they violate the laws of nature the Krython are built upon. She pulled up schematics on his desk display. Most of this is theoretical. The humans never had time to build these weapons. But the mathematics are sound. With the Council's resources and time, we could develop them. How much time do we need? Years, maybe decades. Zixthor looked at the display, studying the complex designs. The Krython will not wait decades. No. But if we start now, we might be ready when they reach Council space. If the humans could not stop them, what makes you think we can? Vensala met his eyes. Because the humans gave us something they never had. Warning. They fought the Krython blind, learning as they went. We have their entire combat database. We know what works and what does not. We know the Krython's patterns and behaviors. The humans bought us that knowledge with their exodus. Zixthor nodded slowly. Prepare a full report for the Council. Include everything we found, every data file, every video, every piece of research. The Council needs to understand what humanity sacrificed for us. The Council convened 2 days later in their great chamber on the capital world of Valar Prime. Representatives from 200 species gathered to hear Zixthor's report. The chamber was vast, with seating arranged in circular tiers around a central platform where Zixthor stood. He began with the facts. Humanity was gone, voluntarily evacuated to another dimension. The Krython swarm was now in possession of an empty Earth. And the threat was not contained, but merely delayed. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some representatives looked shocked. Others looked skeptical. A few looked relieved. Chancellor Moxvan of the Korthan Collective spoke first. You are saying that an entire species abandoned their homeworld? That seems cowardly. Zixthor had expected this reaction. Respectfully, Chancellor, I thought the same thing at first. But after studying their records and understanding their reasoning, I believe it was the bravest decision any species has ever made. He activated the holographic display and showed them Dr. Helen Price's final message. The chamber fell silent as the human scientist explained her species' choice. When the message ended, Chancellor Moxvan looked troubled. They left to protect us? Yes. They realized that if the Krython consumed them, the swarm would become even more dangerous and spread to our worlds. By removing themselves, they prevented that outcome and gave us time to prepare. Another representative stood, a tall, crystalline being named Luxara. But they also abandoned their world. They left behind everything they built. How do we know they will not do the same thing again if they face difficulty in their new dimension? Because they had no choice, Zixthor said firmly. The Krython cannot be defeated by conventional means. The humans tried everything. They sacrificed millions of soldiers buying time for civilians to escape. They were not running from a battle they could win. They were making a strategic withdrawal from a war that was already lost. He pulled up the combat data. I have 3 months of battle reports here. Every engagement shows the same pattern. Initial human success followed by rapid Krython adaptation. By the end, human weapons were useless. Their tactics were countered. They were losing entire fleets in battles that accomplished nothing. The chamber remained quiet as the representatives absorbed this information. Ambassador Torgan, an elder statesman from the Valenian Empire, spoke next. His voice was measured and calm. Commander Zixthor, what is your assessment of the threat the Krython posed to Council space? Severe and immediate, Zixthor replied. Our sensors detected the Krython fleet arriving at Earth as we departed. Based on human projections, the swarm will reach the nearest Council world within 18 months. We must prepare. Prepare how? Torgan asked. If the humans could not stop them, what hope do we have? The humans left us their research. Dr. Vensala spoke up from her position beside Zixthor. They discovered theoretical weapons that could work against the Krython. Technologies based on dimensional physics and reality manipulation. The Krython can adapt to conventional attacks, but they cannot adapt to attacks that violate the fundamental laws of their existence. She displayed the human weapon schematics. These designs are incomplete, but they provide a foundation. With the Council's combined scientific resources, we can develop functional versions. How long will that take? Chancellor Moxvan asked. 10 years minimum, 20 years for full deployment across Council space. The chamber erupted in debate. 20 years was too long. The Crethon would reach them before then. They needed solutions now, not theoretical weapons that might work eventually. Zixthor waited for the noise to subside, then spoke again. The humans also left detailed information about Crethon behavior and biology. We can use this to develop delaying tactics. We cannot defeat them yet, but we can slow them down. Buy ourselves time. Ambassador Torgan raised his hand for silence. I propose we establish a joint task force dedicated to this threat. Representatives from each species, working together to develop weapons and strategies based on human research. We should also send envoys to the most remote species, warning them of what is coming. I second that proposal, Zixthor said immediately. The vote was unanimous. The council would act as one to face the Crethon threat. As the meeting concluded, Ambassador Torgan approached Zixthor. You spent days on Earth. Tell me honestly, do you believe we can survive this? Zixthor thought about the empty cities, the silent streets, the recorded messages from people who knew they would never see their homeworld again. The humans survived, he said. They made an impossible choice and paid an unthinkable price, but they survived. If they could do that, then we can find a way to survive as well. Torgan nodded slowly. I hope you are right. 3 days later, Zixthor's fleet received an urgent transmission from the monitoring station at the edge of Council space. Commander, you need to see this. The video feed showed a distant view of Earth's solar system. Crethon bioships filled the space around the planet. Thousands of them. They orbited the world in dense formations, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescence. They have been there for 5 days, the station officer reported, scanning the planet constantly. But they have not attacked. They have not landed. They are just waiting. Zixthor watched the Crethon vessels circle Earth like predators that had lost the scent of their prey. They are confused. They followed the humans to Earth expecting to find prey, but there is nothing there. What will they do? I do not know, but we should monitor them closely. This behavior is unprecedented. Over the next weeks, the Crethon fleet remained at Earth. Their numbers grew as more ships arrived. They scanned every meter of the planet's surface. They sent scouts into the atmosphere, but they found no humans to consume. Dr. Venzala developed a theory. The Crethon are programmed to hunt and consume. Without prey, they do not know what to do. They may be locked in a behavioral loop, searching for targets that no longer exist. How long can they maintain this? Zixthor asked. Unknown. They are biological machines. Eventually they will need to feed on something or they will begin to break down. And if they cannot find food, then they may enter dormancy. Or they may begin to cannibalize each other. Or, she paused, or they may expand their search pattern and move toward the nearest source of biological life. Which would be Council space. Zixthor felt cold. We need to accelerate the weapon development program. Already underway, Commander. But we still need years, not months. As time passed, the situation at Earth remained unchanged. The Crethon continued to orbit the empty planet, searching endlessly for prey that was gone. Meanwhile, the Council worked frantically to develop the weapons humanity had theorized. Scientists from every species collaborated on the project. They studied human mathematics and pushed the boundaries of known physics. Progress was slow but steady. Zixthor often thought about the humans during this time. Where were they now? Had they found a safe place in their new dimension? Were they rebuilding their civilization? He hoped they were thriving. They deserved that much after what they had sacrificed. 6 months after leaving Earth, he received a message from Dr. Venzala. She was excited, almost breathless. Commander, we have a breakthrough. The first-dimensional weapon prototype is complete. It is crude and limited, but it works. The facility beneath Geneva was enormous. Zixthor and his team descended through layers of concrete and steel, passing through security doors that hung open and empty corridors lit by emergency lighting. The deeper they went, the more Zixthor felt that they were approaching something important. Dr. Venzala walked beside him, her scanning device beeping steadily. The energy readings are increasing. Whatever the humans built here, it used massive amounts of power. They reached the bottom level and stepped into a vast chamber. Zixthor stopped, his breath catching in his throat. In the center of the room stood a circular platform 30 meters wide. Strange machinery surrounded it, covered in symbols and equations he did not recognize. Cables as thick as his arm ran from the platform to generators that lined the walls. "What is this place?" one of his officers whispered. Dr. Vensala approached the platform carefully, her scanner working frantically. "I have never seen technology like this. It is not a jump drive. It is not a matter transporter. The energy signature is completely different from anything in our databases." Zixthor walked around the chamber, studying the equipment. Workstations sat against the walls, their screens dark. Papers were scattered across desks covered in complex mathematics. He picked up one sheet and tried to read it, but the equations made no sense to him. "Commander, look at this," Vensala called. She stood at a main computer terminal, its screen now glowing with information. "I accessed their research files. This project was called Exodus." "Exodus." Zixthor joined her. "What does that mean?" "It means departure. Leaving." Vensala scrolled through the files, her eyes widening as she read. According to these notes, the humans were building a gateway. Not to another place in this universe, but to another dimension entirely. Zixthor felt cold despite the warm air in the chamber. "That is impossible. Dimensional travel is purely theoretical. No species has ever succeeded." "The humans did," Vensala said quietly. "Or at least they believed they did. These files contain test results. Successful trials with small objects, then larger ones. They were preparing for something massive." She pulled up a video file. A woman appeared on the screen, middle-aged with tired eyes and hair pulled back in a simple tie. She wore a white lab coat stained with coffee. The date stamp showed the recording was from 5 months ago. "My name is Dr. Helen Price," the woman said. "I am the lead scientist for Project Exodus. If you are watching this, then you have found our facility and are wondering where humanity has gone. I will try to explain." Dr. Price looked directly at the camera, her expression serious. "For 6 months we fought the Crethon swarm. We threw everything we had at them. Our best weapons, our best tactics, our bravest soldiers. And we lost. Every time we lost." She paused, rubbing her eyes. "The Crethon are not like other enemies. They adapt. They learn. Every time we hurt them, they became stronger. Every time we tried something new, they countered it within days. We knew that if the pattern continued, we would be extinct within a year." Zixthor watched the screen intently. This was the answer he had been seeking. "But we discovered something else," Dr. Price continued. "The Crethon are not a natural species. They were created, engineered as a weapon by some ancient civilization that is now gone. The Crethon outlived their creators and continued their programming. Consume, adapt, spread, they cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped by conventional means." She stood and walked to a whiteboard covered in equations. "So we looked for unconventional means. My team studied dimensional physics, theoretical mathematics that most scientists dismissed as fantasy. And we found something. A way to open a doorway to another dimension, a place where the laws of physics are slightly different. A place the Crethon cannot follow because they are fundamentally tied to this reality." Dr. Price turned back to the camera. "The process required every human on Earth and in the colonies to return home. The gateway could only be opened here in this facility and only once. After that, the technology would destroy itself to prevent anyone from following us or recreating what we did." Zixthor felt understanding dawn on him. The empty cities, the abandoned homes, the humans had not been taken. They had left willingly. "I know what you must think," Dr. Price said, "that we are cowards for running, that we should have stayed and fought to the end. But this was not just about saving ourselves. If the Crethon had consumed us, they would have gained all our knowledge, all our biology, all our technology. They would have become even more dangerous, and then they would have continued spreading through the galaxy, consuming every other species in their path." She leaned on her desk, looking exhausted. "By leaving, we accomplished 3 things. We saved ourselves. We prevented the Crethon from becoming stronger. And we gave the rest of the galaxy a chance to prepare for them." The video ended. The screen went dark. Zixthor stood in silence, processing what he had just heard. Around him, his team looked shocked. They sacrificed their entire history. Vensala said softly, "Everything they built. Their home world. Their art, their monuments. All of it just to survive and protect others." "Where are the rest of the files?" Zixthor asked. Vensala worked at the terminal. "There are thousands of documents here. Research notes, personal logs, government communications. It will take days to review everything. Then we start now. I want to understand exactly what happened in the final weeks." How they made this decision. How they convinced billions of people to leave everything behind. The team spread through the facility, accessing computers and gathering data. Sixthor found a smaller office that had belonged to Dr. Price herself. Her desk was covered in notes and diagrams. A photograph sat in a frame, showing Price with a young man and woman. Her children, perhaps. He found her personal log and began to read. The entries started 8 months ago, when the Crethon first entered human space. Dr. Price had been working at a research university, studying theoretical physics. She had a family, a normal life. Then the government had contacted her. They needed someone who understood dimensional mathematics, someone who could think beyond conventional physics. They were desperate, she wrote, willing to consider ideas that would have been dismissed as fantasy during peacetime. Dr. Price had assembled a team of scientists and engineers. They worked day and night, testing theories and building prototypes. The first successful test came 3 months later. They had sent a small probe through a dimensional rift and received data back from the other side. But opening a rift large enough for people would require enormous amounts of energy. And keeping it stable long enough for billions of humans to pass through would push the technology to its absolute limits. The government had given her everything she asked for: money, resources, personnel. They built this facility in secret, deep beneath the Swiss mountains. They constructed the gateway platform and the massive generators needed to power it. Meanwhile, the war continued above. The Crethon pushed deeper into human territory. Colonies fell. Ships were destroyed. Millions died fighting a losing battle. Dr. Price wrote about the moral weight of her work. She knew that what she was proposing was abandonment. Humanity would leave behind everything they had ever built. Every monument, every work of art, every grave of every ancestor. Earth itself would be empty, a ghost world. But the alternative was extinction. Sixthor found an entry from 4 months ago. Dr. Price described a meeting with the human leaders. Military generals, government officials, scientists. They had gathered in a secure bunker to make the final decision. One general, a man named Kevin Patterson, had argued against the exodus. They should fight, he said. Fight until the last human fell. It was better to die with honor than to run like cowards. But President Linda Hayes had disagreed. Honor would not save the billions of civilians who depended on them. Honor would not stop the Crethon from spreading to other worlds. Sometimes survival required difficult choices. They had put it to a vote. Every adult human with a neural implant could cast their decision directly. Stay and fight or go through the gateway to an unknown dimension. The results came in over 3 days. 67% voted to leave. Dr. Price wrote about her relief and her sorrow. Relief that humanity would survive. Sorrow that they had to abandon everything to do it. The preparations began immediately. Every human in the colonies received orders to return to Earth. Military ships became transport vessels. Civilian craft were pressed into service. They had 5 weeks to gather everyone. Sixthor found mission reports from those final weeks. Ships traveled to Mars and brought back the colonists there. Others went to Europa, to the mining stations in the asteroid belt, to the research outpost near Saturn. Every human had to return home. The soldiers fighting at the front lines were the hardest to retrieve. They were engaged with Crethon forces, trying to buy time for the evacuation. Thousands died in those final battles, holding the line so their families could escape. A pilot named Greg Foster wrote about the last flight from the front. His squadron escorted the final transport ships back to Earth, while Crethon vessels pursued them. They lost half their fighters in that battle, but the transports made it through. Sixthor read report after report, his respect for humanity growing with each one. They had faced an impossible choice and made the brave decision. Sixthor spent 3 more days on Earth, overseeing the collection of human data and coordinating with teams across the planet. Every major city had been searched. Every military installation had been examined. Every piece of information had been cataloged and stored, but he wanted to understand more than just the facts. He wanted to understand the people. What had they felt in those final days? What had they hoped for? What had they feared? He found answers in their personal recordings. In Los Angeles, a teacher named Betty Martinez had recorded a message for her students. She sat in her empty classroom surrounded by desks and chairs that would never be used again. I have taught for 20 years, she said to the camera. I have watched hundreds of children grow and learn. I have tried to prepare them for the future. But I never imagined a future like this. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. Tomorrow we leave Earth. We are going somewhere new, somewhere unknown. I am scared. I will not lie about that. But I am also hopeful. Because humans are good at starting over. We have done it before and we will do it again. Betty turned back to the camera. If anyone finds this, please remember us. Remember that we were here. Remember that we loved this world and everything in it. And remember that we left to give others a chance at survival. In Chicago, a factory worker named George Palmer recorded his thoughts while packing a single bag. He moved slowly, carefully choosing what to bring. I do not have much, he said. Never did. But what I have means something to me. This watch was my father's. This photograph is of my wife on our wedding day. This book is one I have read 100 times. He held up each item to the camera, then placed them carefully in his bag. I know I probably cannot take these with me. I know we might have to leave everything behind. But I want to hold on to them as long as I can. They remind me of who I am, where I came from. George sat on his bed, the bag beside him. Tomorrow I become something else. A refugee, a wanderer, maybe a pioneer if we are lucky. But tonight I am still George Palmer, born in Chicago, worked at the same factory for 30 years, married to the same woman for 25. He looked directly at the camera. I hope there are factories on the other side. I hope there is work to do, because I do not know how to be anything other than what I am. In a small town in Texas, a farmer named Carl Hughes recorded his last day on his land. He walked through his fields, touching the crops he had planted but would never harvest. My family has owned this land for 4 generations, he said. My great-grandfather cleared these fields. My grandfather built the barn. My father planted these trees. And I thought my son would inherit it all someday. Carl stopped at a fence line and looked out over his property. But that is not going to happen now. Tomorrow this land will be empty. The crops will rot. The barn will fall apart. Everything my family built will turn to dust. He wiped his eyes. People keep asking me if I am angry about leaving. The truth is, I do not know what I feel. Sad mostly. Sad that it has to end this way, but also grateful that my family will live. That is worth more than any land. Zixthor watched these recordings late into the night, unable to stop. Each one showed him a different aspect of humanity. Their fear, their courage, their love for their world, and their determination to survive. He found a recording from a young couple, Danny and Nicole Griffin, who had just gotten married 3 weeks before the evacuation. They sat together in their apartment holding hands. We had plans, Nicole said. We were going to buy a house, start a family, grow old together on Earth. Now we are going to do all of that somewhere else, Danny added, in a place we have never seen, in a dimension we do not understand. But we are doing it together, Nicole said. That is what matters. They kissed and the recording ended. Dr. Venzala joined Zixthor as he reviewed the footage. She had been working in the facility below studying the gateway technology. I have analyzed their dimensional physics, she said. It is brilliant, completely beyond anything we have attempted. The humans made a scientific breakthrough that should have taken centuries, and they did it in months because they had no choice. Desperation drives innovation, Zixthor said. Yes, but also courage. Venzala sat down beside him. I found something else. A sealed message hidden in the facility's computer core. It is addressed to the Galactic Council. Show me. She activated a holographic projector. The image of Dr. Helen Price appeared, looking even more tired than in her previous recordings. This message was clearly made in the final hours before the Exodus. Greetings to the Galactic Council, Dr. Price began. If you are watching this, then you have discovered that humanity is gone. I want to explain why we made this choice and what it means for you. She pulled up a data display behind her, showing charts and graphs. Our research into the Crethon revealed something terrifying. They are not just a threat to us. They are a threat to all biological life in this galaxy. They were created as a weapon and they will not stop until everything is consumed. Dr. Price highlighted several data points. We have left detailed information about the Crethon in various locations across Earth. Genetic analyses, behavioral patterns, tactical assessments, everything we learned while fighting them. You will need this information to prepare. She leaned forward, her expression intense. The Crethon will reach Earth within days of our departure. They will find it empty. Our models suggest three possible outcomes. They may enter a dormant state waiting for new prey. They may turn on themselves without anything else to consume. Or they may move on, searching for other targets. We hope for the first two outcomes, but you must prepare for the third. Dr. Price stood and walked closer to the camera. Some of you on the council wanted to help us. Some of you thought we deserved our fate for refusing alliance. I want to be clear about why we refused. We knew the truth about the Krathon before you did. We knew that an alliance with you would only paint targets on your worlds. The Krathon would have followed us to your systems, and then you would face what we faced. We refused alliance to protect you, not because of pride. She paused, her voice softening. By leaving, we have given you something valuable. Time. Time to study the information we left behind. Time to develop weapons and strategies. Time to unite your civilizations against this threat. Do not waste it. Dr. Price looked tired but determined. Humanity is not gone. We have just moved to a new stage. Somewhere else in another dimension, we will build new cities and create new lives. We will remember Earth, but we will not be defined by losing it. I hope you can say the same when the Krathon come for you, because they will come. And you must be ready. The hologram flickered and vanished. Zixthor sat in silence, processing her words. Around him, his officers looked grim. She is right, Dr. Venzala said. The Krathon will come here, and then they will continue through council space. We need to prepare. Where are these information caches she mentioned? Zixthor asked. I have located 3 so far. 1 in Australia, 1 in Russia, 1 in Brazil. There may be more. Each one contains detailed data about the Krathon. Retrieve all of them. I want complete copies before we leave Earth. As his team worked to collect the hidden data, Zixthor returned to the surface. He walked through the empty streets of Geneva, trying to imagine what it had been like when the city was full of people, voices in the air, laughter from cafes, the sounds of life. Now there was only silence. He stopped at a memorial in the center of the city. It was a statue of a human family, a mother and father with 2 children. They looked happy, frozen in bronze, unaware that their entire species would one day vanish from this world. At the base of the statue was an inscription in several languages. Zixthor's translator rendered it as, "To those who came before and those who will come after. We are all part of the same story." Zixthor found the words haunting. The humans had known they were leaving, but they had still thought about the future, about who might come after them, about the story continuing beyond their presence. His communicator beeped. Commander, we have retrieved all the data caches. We also detected something else. Report. Long-range sensors are picking up movement at the edge of the solar system. Multiple contacts approaching at high speed. Zixthor felt his blood run cold. The Krathon. Signature matches Krathon bioships. They will reach Earth in approximately 6 hours. Recall all teams immediately. Prepare the fleet for departure. He took one last look at the memorial, at the bronze family that would stand here alone after he left. Goodbye, he said softly. Thank you for what you did. Then he returned to his ship. The evacuation was swift and efficient. Every council team returned to their vessels within 3 hours. All the data they had collected was safely stored. Earth's secrets were now in the hands of the Galactic Council. Zixthor stood on his bridge watching as his fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. On the main screen, Earth hung peaceful and silent, unaware of the danger approaching. Commander, the Krathon fleet is entering the outer system, his tactical officer reported. They will reach Earth in 2 hours. Are all ships ready to depart? Yes, sir. Zixthor looked at Earth one final time. A beautiful blue world that had once been home to billions. A world that now stood empty. A monument to the species that had chosen survival over glory.